Right now, you are listening to the sound of my voice. Within 3 seconds of me speaking, your brain did something incredible. It didn't just process the words, it analyzed the pitch, the rhythm, and the subtle shape of the vowels. Before I even finished my first sentence, you had already made an unconscious guess about exactly where I grew up, my social background, and maybe even my level of education. You hear an accent, and you don't think twice about it. We treat accents like colorful cultural quirks, a souvenir of geography. But for 99% of human history, an accent wasn't a quirk. It was something far more intense. It was a biological passcode. If you think about it from a purely logical standpoint, accents shouldn't exist. Human language evolved for one specific reason: to share information as clearly as possible. If a group of humans moves to a new valley, the most efficient thing their brains could do is maintain a perfectly clear, standard way of speaking, so everyone can understand each other. Instead, human language does the exact opposite. It fractures. If you isolate a group of humans for just a few generations, their vowels will stretch, their consonants will shift, and they will develop a completely distinct accent. It makes communication between groups harder, not easier. For decades, linguists treated this like an accident, a byproduct of sloppy copying over time, like a game of telephone across generations. But evolutionary biologists started looking closer at the data, and they realized something profound. Accents are not a bug in human communication. They are a feature. For over 300,000 years, your ancestors lived in a world where the greatest threat to your survival wasn't a saber-toothed tiger or a sudden famine. It was other humans. To understand why your tongue moves the way it does, we have to look at the brutal reality of early human territory. In the late Pleistocene era, resource scarcity was a constant shadow. If your tribe found a freshwater spring or a grove of fruit trees, that patch of land was the only thing keeping your children alive. But outside your small tribal circle of about 150 people, the world was filled with wandering, desperate bands of outsiders. If an outsider sneaked into your camp at night or tried to blend into your foraging group to steal your resources, the consequences were lethal. Our ancestors needed a security system. They needed an unhackable biological firewall that could instantly separate us from them. Physical appearance wasn't enough. Humans from the next valley looked exactly like humans from your valley. Dress codes could be copied, rituals could be observed and mimicked, but there was one thing an outsider could never successfully fake in a split-second encounter: the incredibly complex, muscular muscle memory required to speak your exact local dialect. Evolutionary linguists call this a shibboleth. The term comes from an ancient historical text where two warring tribes, the Gileadites and the Ephraimites, looked identical. To catch enemy spies trying to cross a river checkpoint, the Gileadites forced everyone to say the word shibboleth. The enemy tribe didn't have the esh sound in their dialect. They pronounced it sibboleth. That tiny single consonant slip-up was an instant death sentence. For hundreds of thousands of years, the human brain was locked in an evolutionary arms race against infiltration. And this is where the science gets truly fascinating. In the late 20th century, neuroscientists studying child development discovered something called the critical period hypothesis. When you are born, your brain is a linguistic blank slate. A newborn baby has the physical and neurological capability to produce all 800 distinct sounds that exist across every human language on Earth. But around the age of puberty, a biological switch flips. The brain undergoes a massive wave of synaptic pruning. It looks at the sounds you have been making for the first 12 years of your life, locks them into permanent muscle memory, and literally deletes the neurological infrastructure for all the other sounds. This is why, if you try to learn a new language as an adult, you will almost always speak it with an accent. It's not because you aren't smart enough, it's because your vocal cords, your tongue, and the motor cortex of your brain have literally calcified. They have frozen in place. Think about how bizarre this is from an evolutionary perspective. Why would nature intentionally make it harder for an adult to learn a new communication system? The answer is that the critical period was designed to protect the tribe. It ensured that any adult trying to pass themselves off as a lifelong member of your community would be instantly exposed the moment they opened their mouth. Your accent was an unforgeable passport, printed directly onto your vocal tract. But the security system didn't just look outward to catch spies, it also looked inward to build trust. In 2007, a team of researchers at Harvard University, led by Dr. Catherine Kinsler, ran a series of groundbreaking experiments on infants. They showed babies videos of two different people. Both people looked similar, and both offered the baby a toy. But one person spoke in the baby's native accent, while the other spoke with a foreign accent. The results were overwhelming. Even before infants can talk, and before they have any cultural concept of race, nationality, or geography, they overwhelmingly choose to take toys and food from people who speak with their local accent. Kinsler's team went further. They found that children would rather be friends with a child of a different race who spoke with their local accent than a child of their own race who spoke with a foreign accent. The data revealed a hidden truth about human nature. Our brains are not naturally wired for racial prejudice. We are wired for accent prejudice. For millennia, your accent was the ultimate indicator of altruism. If someone spoke exactly like you, it meant they shared your history, your values, and your water supply. It meant they were safe to cooperate with in the dark. So, what happened to this ancient defense mechanism? The answer, once again, is that human technology outpaced our biology. With the invention of ships, empires, printing presses, and eventually mass media, human populations began to mix on a scale that our evolutionary programming never anticipated. Today, we live in a globalized society where we interact with hundreds of different accents every single day through our screens. But because that ancient software is still running silently inside our brains, we have twisted a survival mechanism into a tool for social discrimination. We hear a certain accent and we instantly categorize someone as uneducated, untrustworthy, or aggressive. We treat accents like a test of intelligence, completely unaware that we are just experiencing the leftover echoes of an ancient tribal alarm system. Every time you speak, you are carrying the vocal signature of the tribe that kept your ancestors alive. We managed to build a connected global world, but your brain is still listening closely to the vowels, waiting to see if it's safe to trust the person across the river.